Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Myra Tatum Saucedo with University of Texas Permian Basin, and we are into the final 4 weeks in my American literature course. And as you've seen, we've taken a turn into 20th century fiction, contemporary, and it's different. We only have 4 weeks left, and you only have 4 assignments left. 1 assignment a week, but they're big. So you should be reading Heroes and Saints, getting the discussion boards done, and check out the discussion board for Heroes and Saints. It's completely different. What I want is to bring everybody in as a class and have everybody help each other through this, because the play Heroes and Saints is wonderful by Sheree Moraga, and there is Spanish integrated with the English, so I want our bilingual students to help translate for those that are not bilingual. So that is part of a discussion board. As part of an assignment, you can choose to do that. You can look up other background. I gave a whole list. So reply to the discussion board now. Pick what assignment you're going to do. It's not due for 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to work on it. So get started, get going. And I have a lot of people saying the ones who walk away from Amalas is bizarre. Yeah, it is a sort of a dystopian kind of fiction. As a good man is hard to find, I think it's a little bit different. Flannery O'Connor's work is a bit grotesque, and what has been called by scholars as being Christ haunted. And actually, the ones that walk away from Amalas is kind of the same thing. I wrote a lecture, and I'll be putting it in your course in the next few minutes with this video. And it's great. It's a fun lecture. And since beginning of time, there were sin eaters, sacrifices being made. The Aztecs sacrificed people. There were sacrificial lambs in the Jewish tradition. The books of Moses and especially Leviticus that has the concept of the scapegoat. And the scapegoat is somebody or something that takes on all the sins of the world for everybody else. So in the ones that walk away from Amalas, the scapegoat is the torture child, sadly enough. And do people buy into this concept, and do they live like that? Sorry, it's early. I need coffee. So I put a painting in by William Holman Hunt. He's a pre-Raphaelite painter. The pre-Raphaelites wanted to go back to medieval style paintings with lots of tiny, tiny details. And they thought everybody after the painter Raphael was smushy, sloshy. It wasn't detailed enough. So they formed this group, a brotherhood, if you will, and involved models, picked out models in a certain type that they all liked, and they're a really interesting group to study. But that's British literature. But still, I like going back to the British because it starts with the Gothic really was strong there before it came in to its own in America. It was really strong. Of course, we always had Edgar Allan Poe. But Henry Fuseli, back in the time, pre-Raphaelites, did this painting called The Nightmare, and it's a little hard to see, but it's like a gargoyle, something grotesque, sitting on this woman's chest, and there's this horse, evil-looking horse in the background, which is kind of representative of her nightmare. And of course, she's all, very gothic. So I like paintings and visuals, and that's why I teach graphic novels also in comics. I think there's a visual literacy that's real and a visual rhetoric, if you will. So here's a really big picture of the scapegoat. And the details are incredible. William Holman had started this painting when he went to the Middle East, and he went and started painting this in the Dead Sea area, and he brought back rocks and sand and stuff with him and laid it out in the studio. He did all the background in the Middle East of painting to get the surroundings, and then they were so detailed, the pre-Raphaelites, every blade of grass, every weed, flower, anything, they would spend hours painting 5 inches of blades of grass to make it as realistic as possible. So he brought back rocks, and he brought back dirt and sand, and got a goat in the studio. And I made it look like it was suffering. It may have been suffering having to be in the studio. I don't know. I did study that part of it. But the whole reason I brought this in is because the ones who walk away from Amalas, the child is a scapegoat. It takes on the sins for everybody else, and is kind of a sacrifice. So, I mean, we have these dystopian societies. In 1984, who was the scapegoat? Whereas there more than one. And, you can think about it and relate back to Good Man is Hard to Find. Was there a scapegoat in this story? And it's something to think about, because cultures were built on this concept back in the Welsh culture. The idea there were sin eaters, people that would go to funerals, especially for the very poor, and as they might not have had pastors or whatever, religious leaders, they would have sin eaters come and eat food, including what were called dead cakes, and I haven't done a lot of research on that. And they would be physically absorbing the sins of the people by eating. And there would be like one designated person and always carried around everybody's sins. I don't know who wants that job. I don't know if they got paid. It's just, well. So yeah, these are some bizarre stories. So we have gotten through what is called the Main Canon, which was really heavily white male for many years. Women were just discouraged from writing altogether and have pen names, and even J.K. Rowling for the Harry Potter series thought she would sell more books if there wasn't a woman's name on the book. How sad is that? It's still going on. And I had a pen name for a short horror story that I wrote for a small magazine, Lee Tatum, my middle name and my maiden name, because it was all men in there that were submitting, and I thought, I think I'm going to go with a pen name. And I was a teenager then. And now I wouldn't do it, but things have changed. I think really people will read your book, whether you're male or female or whatever your name is, hopefully. So this just a little tidbit I was going to have this book, Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor. But it's so riddled with racism that I was reading it as there's a whole cadre of people saying, was she racist or was she just explaining the time and having these people in the time period be that way? But it's really ugly when it comes to that. But it's a great story about Christ's hauntedness. And this is a different picture of the scapegoat. You see, there's a frame, and I put the words that are written around the frame in your handwritten lecture. And the reason I wanted to do that is because it's important to the meaning of the scapegoat. Pre-Raphaelites wrote on their frames. Sometimes they had entire poems. Sometimes one person would write a poem and the other would make a painting for it. And so there was this interaction of visual representations. Poems are kind of paint images, and then there's the images that paint the poems. So yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. And I don't want anybody to become overwhelmed. I'm trying to catch up grades. There was a lot of problems with the first paper, and I may have to do an intervention workshop on modern language association style. People, you've got to cite pages from legitimate sources in your paper. You cannot go to random websites. Don't use any of the free essay sites, sites that analyze a poem for you. They just try and do your best to be original and unique. There's no one right answer. And the wrong answer is definitely to take somebody else's idea. Even if you credit it, it's already their idea. You didn't think of it. Now, in scholarship, you can do that and cite it, a source, but to go to somebody's blog or somebody that's written an essay, you might not even be getting good information. It might be incorrect. So please watch that, and I will I'm working with people individually. That's why it's taking me so long to keep up. Where some people are still revising the first paper, and now we're into paper 2, and we're out of time. So everybody, bring on the steam, and do notice that I have extended the due date for this discussion board because of what I added on the scapegoat. If you want to add anything to your discussion board, or if you have not responded to 2 other people, get going. I extended one more day. So I am looking at everything, and we'll keep in touch with you so we can get through the final weeks and keep going. Yeah. And I'll see you at the next video.